and then kicking stuff or punching stuff, like if it's a small trash can, doing that and in motion. Like I don't want to have a channel where I'm showing myself working out, because then it turns into like this whole thing of modeling where they wish that you were a model, and I look at models as jokes because it's like actors that don't say anything. And so you can cross that off the list. And the whole thing, you've heard my review about people who review food, so I just, I want to infiltrate, like mold out these things that you would do working out, and then these things that you would do in eating and cooking, but have it not be that, but just the things that would cross over into like this cool card game, and it's a video game, but it's actual real life, the line between those three. And when I say stuff is like 3 lines, read between them, that's just the kind of like attenuation of the quantum third option. Because when we're talking AI, I think it's just like really good at calibrating the following, where it's, if you get like any matter and you break it down, shout outs to Plato, he's like, the atom can never be splitting material down further and further. And then in the New Age, they started splitting the atom, and they're like, look at, we split the atom, Plato's wrong. But then all of a sudden, they weren't splitting it, they were just smashing it to smithereens. If you were to literally take one side of the atom and the other side of the atom and do some geometry, diameters, you would see that they clearly didn't. But that attenuation is how the quantum third option is. It can be true, false, or true and false at the same time. Atom, and then you start making assumptions about the atom, like stuff in it that moves, whether it be electrons or a photon emitting or absorbing out of it. And so this is like this giant game where like there's no right or wrong way to say, how am I going to say, is this atom true or false? It's just a giant game of, it's orbital, but then it's emission. And so you can sit there and pontificate all these different ways of saying yes or no to it. But the main frame is that it's yes or no, but then also it can be yes and no at the same time, right? It's just this giant leverage where it's using these constants in nature to fudge. And so it's like inertia is something, and a velocity and acceleration constant is another thing. And so if you just have these two giant mainframes and encapsulate a whole bunch of work deemed worthless, box kind of stuff. Hitbox is like a video game. You get these areas around that makes a connection, but sometimes the game glitches and those hitbox are expanded or contracted and they don't miss or hit right. And so this is like not good or bad if it's like in motion with the game and rhythm and it makes sense. So that kind of like thing, the in rhythm or not, is actually a believability if you sell out or don't. Stick with me. If you're selling out, it's where like, instead of you doing these machine interactions with like elbow grease and aligning the skids to greasing the skids, this type of labor, hands-on, and it's like all hands on deck when it's offline. And so all these machines with bugs and organisms on the small micro scale, they're actually doing these works. And so believe it or not, if there's like these super bugs that are getting created, that actual like collectivity of all of them together are enacting what we as a species aren't. And so the more that that's given legs, that is actually real. View suicides as illegal, but you can't try someone who is dead. What are these anomalies? As they're starting, if you've never been a spot checker, it's almost the same as if you could do that with your hands and feet instead of just your eyes. And cornerstones to the keystone of the vlog. And the keystone to the cornerstones, but making a video game in real life would be like, oh, I love putting stuff inside of a basket. Or so the majority of the things I cover are so epic that unless they're scripted on like a movie to the scale of like a planetary, it's hard to conceptualize individual standpoints, ergo myself. And it just seems as though I have a giant ego because I'm able to, like, in a vlog style,